All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're exploring a life and a career of a scale that is honestly almost impossible to fully wrap your head around. We're looking at the monumental legacy of the legendary Indian singer Lata Mangeshkar, who recently passed away at the age of 92. Now, when we talk about cultural icons, we tend to throw words like legend or superstar around a bit too freely. But as you'll see in this explainer, this is a case where one voice literally soundtracked the lives of over 1 billion people.
25,000. I mean, just let that staggering number sink in for a second. That is the unbelievable amount of songs Lata Mangeshkar recorded over a career spanning more than 7 decades. To put that kind of sustained output into perspective, her voice was featured in over 2,000 Indian films. Just imagine going to work and creating art at the absolute highest level day in and day out for 70 years. It's a level of creative endurance that is entirely unmatched in modern history. And it's because of that unmatched output and the sheer emotional resonance of her work that she earned these legendary titles, the Queen of Melody and the Nightingale of India. And let's be clear, these aren't just catchy PR slogans. These are titles of deep cultural reverence. Right out of the gate, we have to understand that she wasn't just a popular pop star. She was a literal national treasure. Her vocal cords were actually viewed as a defining characteristic of India's cultural identity.
Section 1. The Scale of a Legend. Let's take a quick look at the Indian cinema ecosystem.
So, the crucial point here is that to really understand why those legendary titles are so fitting, we have to look at how unique the ecosystem of Indian cinema actually is. In most Western films, a song is kind of just background noise, right? Something to set the mood. But in Indian cinema, a playback singer holds a completely unprecedented power. This musical tradition is the absolute backbone of the industry, and it has been since 1931 with India's first film, Alam Ara. Making a successful Indian movie requires a very specific recipe. You don't just need a good director or scriptwriter. You need a lyricist, who is often a highly respected poet. You need a visionary music composer. And finally, the last piece of the puzzle, you need a legendary singer. The singer is the ultimate emotional conduit. They're the ones who take the script, the poetry, and the melody and deliver the whole shebang straight into the hearts of the audience.
And what exactly are they delivering? Well, film songs and their lyrics are literally how the masses process life itself. These songs act as a primary channel to express profound happiness, deep-seated frustrations, and, messy love problems. But it goes way beyond the personal. These songs are also massive vessels for societal concepts like patriotism and even anti-authoritarian ideas. When you realize that the public actively relies on these melodies to navigate their most intense emotions and political feelings, the importance of a legendary singer like Lata Mangeshkar becomes absolutely immense. She was the voice giving shape to all of these collective experiences.
Part 2. From Tragedy to Triumph. Let's flash back to her early life in Indore in 1929, back when she was actually named Hema.
She was born into a deeply musical family. Her father, Dinanath Mangeshkar, was a renowned classical musician and stage actor, and she started learning to sing from him at an incredibly early age. But then, a tragic turning point arrived. At just 13 years old, her father passed away. This devastating loss abruptly forced her into singing not just for the sake of art, but for sheer survival. As the eldest of 5 siblings, she had to pack up, move to Mumbai, and find work just to support her 4 brothers and sisters. She trained under various classical maestros, desperately trying to land opportunities in the film industry to keep her family afloat.
Now, what's really interesting about her early days is how completely wrong the gatekeepers were. Early critics actually dismissed her voice. They claimed it was too thin. No way, right? It's incredible to think about now, especially when you look at Lata's reality. She possessed a profound vocal ability and could seamlessly sing in 3 entire octaves. It's really the ultimate underdog victory. By the late 1940s, she had completely shattered those early criticisms and firmly established her name in Hindi films.
Part 3. The Soundtrack of India. This is where she absolutely dominates the Hindi singing scene. Let's move through this timeline and see how this builds, because once she established her name, she completely took over. Her dominance just builds across a timeline of pure cultural milestones. In 1949, bam, she has one of her first massive hits with the movie Mahal. Then 1960 brings the release of the absolute epic Mughal Yazam. Through the 60s and 70s, she's producing her most iconic tracks alongside other massive Bollywood legends, collaborating with famous singers like Kishore Kumar, Mana Dey, and Muhammad Rafi. By 1963, she's delivering a wartime tribute that literally stops the country in its tracks, and by 1972, she becomes the first Indian artist ever to perform at the prestigious Royal Albert Hall in London. Every single one of these dates represents a moment where she didn't just sing a song, she shifted the culture.
Let's zoom in on that 1960 milestone for a second. For the film Mughal-e-Azam, she sang Jab Pyar Kiya To Dona Kya, which translates to Those Who Love Know No Fear. Now, the song narrates the medieval story of the Mughal emperor's son falling in love with a slave girl. But it became so much more than just a movie plot. The lyrics, written by the poet Naushad, transformed into an actual rallying cry. Delivered through Lata's incredibly powerful vocals, it became an anthem for everyday Indian lovers who are bravely defying strict societal barriers of caste, class, and religion. Her voice literally gave them courage.
Then, just 3 years later, she demonstrated a completely different kind of power. During the Sino-Indian War in 1963, she performed a song called "E Mere Vatan Ke Logo," which means, "O People of My Country." It was written by the poet Kavi Pradeep to commemorate fallen soldiers, and her live performance was so deeply emotional and resonant that it actually moved the then Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, to tears. It proved that in moments of profound national grief, her voice was the glue that could unify an entire grieving nation.
And this brilliantly illustrates the dynamic range not just within Indian music, but right inside her own family. Lata was known for her beautifully traditional Indian singing style, but she frequently sang duets with her own sister, Asha Bhonsle, who would also become a massively famous Bollywood singer. Asha, however, preferred a much more modern singing style. Having these two sisters, side by side, representing the traditional and the modern, gave audiences this incredible, unmatched musical contrast.
Part 4. A Global Musical Legacy. Let's explore how her voice transcended borders.
When we zoom out to examine the footprint of her career, we see she didn't just peak in the 60s and 70s and fade away. Not at all. She continued singing brilliantly well into the 80s, the 90s, and into the new millennium, remarkably releasing her last album in 2012. And a big part of this massive legacy really comes down to her incredible linguistic versatility. While she's incredibly famous for her Hindi film songs, she sang in many different Indian languages to connect intimately with diverse regional audiences. Beyond Hindi, she recorded heavily in Marathi and Bengali, among others. She wasn't just the voice of one region, she actively made herself the voice of the entire subcontinent.
And the world absolutely recognized this unparalleled contribution. Her legacy effortlessly transcended borders. In 2001, she received the Bharat Ratna, which is the absolute highest civilian honor in her home country of India. But her impact resonated globally, for sure. In 2009, France actually recognized her monumental artistic contributions by making her an Officer of the Legion of Honor, which is their highest order of merit.
So what does this all mean? Which brings us to the core of this explainer, and a thought I really want to leave you with today. We've seen the 25,000 songs. We've seen how she became the emotional outlet for everything from forbidden love to wartime grief. So ask yourself, when a single voice soundtracks the joy, grief, and defiance of 1 billion people over 7 decades, does the singer shape the culture, or does the culture shape the singer? It's a beautifully semiotic relationship. I highly encourage you to go listen to her timeless voice and hear that history for yourself. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and keep learning.